Hi Rabbits, Research Turtle here. Today we are decoding a massive shift in global geopolitics. We are looking at why China, a country that spent decades quietly building its strength, suddenly decided to take off the mask and bare its teeth. We're going to walk through the peak China theory to understand why Beijing has traded patience for aggression. Let's dive into the slides. Let's look at the first few slides. For a long time, the world operated on an old assumption that time was on China's side. Deng Xiaoping, the architect of modern China, had a famous 24-character strategy. The core of it was Tao Guang Yang Hui, hide your strength, bide your time. It was a strategy of pure realism. They knew they were weak, so they avoided conflict with the US to focus on growth. And for decades, it worked. The line on the graph just kept going up. But look at slide 3. That strategy has evolved. Under Hu Jintao, we saw a slight shift to actively participating. But the real break happened with Xi Jinping in 2013. He introduced Fen Fa Yu Wei, striving for achievement. This wasn't just a slogan change, it was a fundamental shift from survival to pursuing global hegemony. But here's the question. If waiting was working so well, why did Xi Jinping get so impatient? This brings us to slide 4 and the concept of strategic impatience. The narrative has flipped. The Chinese leadership no longer believes time is their friend. They are gripped by the fear of a closing window. This is the peak China theory, the idea that China's power is maxing out right now and stagnation is around the corner. Their aggression isn't coming from confidence, it's coming from anxiety. Let's look at the data driving this fear. Slide 5, the demographic cliff. Slide 5 shows China's biggest nightmare, demographics. China's working-age population actually peaked back in 2014. The demographic dividend that fueled their factory boom is gone. Even scarier, they're getting old before getting rich. Countries like Japan and Korea became wealthy before their populations aged, but China is hitting this wall while still being a middle-income nation. Plus, the one-child policy has left the military with an army of only children, making them very sensitive to casualties. Move to slide 6. The economic miracle is fading. Growth has slowed from 10% to under 5%. They've hit a debt ceiling with the real estate crisis, think Evergrande, and productivity is dropping. On top of that, the US tech blockade is kicking away the ladder. By cutting off advanced chips, the West is preventing China from moving up the value chain. Beijing sees this graph and thinks, if we want to take Taiwan or challenge the US, we have to do it now, before we get too old and too slow. So how did they rationalize this shift? Slide 7 explains the mindset. It started with the 2008 global financial crisis. China saw the West crashing and assumed Western liberalism was failing. They convinced themselves that the East is rising and the West is declining. This was a massive strategic error. They underestimated American resilience, things like the shale revolution and AI dominance. They thought the US was done, so they stopped hiding their ambition. Now, look at slide 8. Politics plays a huge role here. The Communist Party used to derive its legitimacy from economic growth. We make you rich, you let us rule. But with the economy slowing, that deal is broken. So Xi Jinping switched to nationalism. He promised the Great Rejuvenation. This creates a trap. To stay in power, he has to act tough. He uses diversionary aggression, pointing at foreign enemies to distract from problems at home. This brings us to the security situation on slide 9. China feels suffocated. They look at the map and see US allies blocking the first island chain and the Malacca Strait. They feel like they're being strangled. And who's dealing with this? Slide 10 shows us the wolf warriors. Under Xi, diplomats aren't promoted for negotiating well, they're promoted for fighting. If you are moderate, you're purged. If you are aggressive, you get promoted. It's a race to the bottom that kills their soft power. But has this aggression worked? Slide 11 says no. It has become a self-fulfilling prophecy. By acting aggressively, China terrified its neighbors. Now we have AUKUS, the Quad, and a revitalized NATO pivoting to Asia. They wanted to break the encirclement, but they actually tightened it. Slide 12 shows the economic cost. They lost the massive EU investment deal because of their political tantrums. Global unfavorability is at record highs. They're losing both the wallet and the heart of the world. Let's wrap up with the final slides. We're entering a dangerous decade. China is behaving like a gambler going all in because they know their chips are running out. They aren't attacking because they're strong. They're attacking because they're afraid of the future. The tragedy is that their impatience has woken up the West. As the report concludes, time was never on China's side, but their rush to beat the clock has only united their rivals against them. That's it for today. Turtle out.